When's the last time you had an experience?
An experience. Whoa.
You know what I'm talking about, even if that cute head of yours can't quite articulate it. This is an event that felt like it changed the very composition of your soul. A perfectly paced interaction with defined beginning, middle, and end, with ebbs and flows, with meaningful points of resistance and pause between you and an element of the world. A full, complete exchange of energies between you and said object, coalescing into an event whose individual components combine to make a seamless whole while not losing the important individual identity of the pieces that compose it. A game that made you feel like this was specifically designed for me in a lab. A meal that stood out as a testament to what food might be. An exchange with a person of such intimacy that when it concluded, you both felt changed. That fucking shit I took this morning, Jesus Christ. That experience is what we're always chasing in everything we do. And games are no exception. Or are they? Nah, I'm just kidding. They're not. As time progresses, I see more and more articles and data and posts commenting along the lines of how gamers are playing less games. Gamers are playing more older games. Gamers are watching content about games more than playing games themselves. And look, everybody is entitled to their own little opinion, particularly all the guys who keep making the endless swarm of modern games bad videos. But I think the bigger point is being lost by all parties. And that is that gamers are being led to believe that having an experience is no longer possible, or at least significantly more difficult than it used to be. And so I deliver you a question in response. Is this true, or are you just lazy? And look, if you're satisfied by such an incredibly easy, low-hanging answer, then by all means, tune out my video and just leave me open for the watch time. But if perhaps you are unsatisfied by this particular line of thought, then I encourage you to keep listening to the very attractive bisexual rambling at you on screen. Capri Sun, sponsor me. About 100 years ago, some philosopher named John Dewey, unrelated to the duck, wrote a book called Art is Experience. And don't worry, he's not French. That's why there isn't a trigger warning on this video. And within this 90-year-old book, I think we can find some of our particular gamer-related answers. Within this text, he took upon the near impossible task of trying to not only outline what an experience constitutes, but reframe how we should view art itself and its connection to us and the world that we live in. And since games are art, I think this can help us out. Dewey states that art should not be seen as this esoteric, separate entity above everyday life and worldly interactions. Art should not be put upon pedestals and glorified as we see in museums, to which he refers to as beauty parlors of civilization. This framing of art is quite oftentimes seen in forms of nationalist rhetoric, as well as people who really only care about the art object for its perceived cultural signifiers and have no desire or interest to engage in said object's actual artistic value, or to even kind of experience it in the first place. Art is seen simply as a product of defined moral value that is good or it is bad. But art should not be art products. Art should be something with and in experience. If you're getting mad about a video game that you haven't or don't intend to play, you're doing the exact same shallow moral signifying as the schmucks who just buy up art and put it in a vault because of their perceived value. You don't actually want to appreciate or engage with the object, you just want it to be yours. I have been deeply unsatisfied by the lazy, uninteresting explanations to these disturbing gaming trends, so I am here to generate a much more compelling answer, then game's bad now. And to do this, we must look at the 3 modern elements that combine to influence experiences.
Wow.
In the modern gaming age. And that is the art object, the viewer, and the paracontextual information around it. Capri Sun, sponsor me. I stopped recording to go see Nosferatu yesterday, and I told myself I was gonna come back, but then I didn't. Riddle me this, Batman. Is listening to someone describe a delicious sandwich that they ate the same thing as eating of that sandwich? Is a video of someone explaining the plot to a game or a movie the same thing as watching or playing that game or that movie? Is watching a video of someone react to a Reddit clip that's only a piece of a full video by a grifter who is just reading another grifter's article talking about another YouTuber's experience playing a pre-release version of a video game, but only framing that article around the fact that pronouns are in the game and filling the article with religious propaganda? The same thing as watching that YouTuber's video? An experience has a unity that gives it its name. That meal, that storm, that rupture of friendship. The existence of this unity is constituted by a single quality that pervades the entire experience, in spite of the variation of its constituent parts. This unity is neither emotional, practical, nor intellectual, for these terms name distinctions that reflection can make within it. Obviously not. An experience, as Dewey puts it, is a unity of emotional, intellectual, and practical. And someone's recounting of something that they experience is not nearly the same nor even capable of offering that same unity. All of those examples that I listed, including this video itself, is what scientists call paracontent. Content about content. Some might say that it is the most popular form of content. And tell me, if you only engage with elements of the world through the explanations and interpretations of other people, are you really engaging with the world? See, the reason why we're starting with paracontent first as opposed to games, or even you selfish little goblin, is because there's more and more kind of horrifying data about that people are engaging more and more with paracontent, or in this case, content about video games, than games themselves. For example, according to YouTube's 2024 fandom report, 66% of Gen Zers say that they spend more time watching content than engaging with the thing that the content is about. As an example, they cite that the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer clocked at over 93 million views in 24 hours. Not bad, but it's no Crimes New Roman video. However, videos reacting to the trailer or content around the trailer accumulated almost 200 million views in the same 24-hour period. And look, I'm not here looking all cute today to discuss the ethics of paracontent and whether the average bit of React content is inherently theft or lazy. It is. I'm here to talk about the importance of having your own dogshit opinions and not just parroting someone else's. In the article The Age of Paracontent by Ruby Justice Thalow, he states that paracontent makers may be called creators or influencers, but their actual role is that of contextualizer. Contextualizers, such as reaction video creators or fan analysts, guide the process by highlighting specific elements, framing interpretations, and modeling emotional or intellectual responses. They do not provide an open-ended range of possibilities. They prescribe a defined one. They shape how audiences situate themselves within the text's horizon, directing attention to particular meanings and experiences. We live in an age of excess in every sense of the word, including that of content. It is literally impossible for us to find and see and filter everything, so we find ways to filter, and that includes people. Enter para-content creators, our own little human algorithms feeding us a curated selection of whatever the hell gets dumped into their slop bucket that day. And to be clear here, para-content isn't inherently bad or even a new phenomena. It's just gotten lazier. For example, in ancient times, the Midrash is an example of a collection of writings about the Torah whose purpose is to discuss and analyze the narratives and question the texts as a form of supplemental interaction with the Torah. Kind of think of it like really early Jewish video essays. However, these are meant to be supplemental. They really only have true value if you have engaged with the source material. The problem that we are now seeing in this day and age is that people are treating para-content as the content themselves, completely neglecting to engage with the thing that is being talked about. And that's pretty fucking stupid, because not only could you just be lied to, and your complacent ass wouldn't know the difference because you haven't engaged with the source material, but also, it's ignoring the core fact of the universe that language is inherently incapable of articulating interaction. If all meanings could be adequately expressed by words, the arts of painting and music would not exist. There are values and meanings that can be expressed only by immediately visible and audible qualities, and to ask what they mean in the sense of something that can be put into words is to deny their distinctive existence. It literally does not matter if the people making this para-content are ignorant or insightful, thorough or lazy. What matters is that you experience the things yourself, because you understand that explanation and recountenance is not personal experience. It's literally the fucking iceberg meme, dude. Here's the things you can explain. Here's everything you can't explain. All of us should have our own icebergs of things we can't explain, and then a mountain of things inside of us that are intrinsic to the interactions that we have had. Or at least we should. Do you not have an iceberg? Have you not been experiencing things? Hey everybody, look at this guy over here. He doesn't have a fucking iceberg. Loser. The complexities of games and art and life that lead to an experience cannot be summarized or articulated. They must be lived to be experienced and comprehended. The moment you think you are getting all there is to know, to feel about a thing purely from somebody recounting their presumably dogshit perspective or their own unique interaction with something, you are actively shooting yourself in the foot before you're even standing up. People who are ravenously commenting in agreement about the addition of pronouns on that dogshit Asmongold React video have lost. They're completely rejecting an art object, a video game, based off of the single isolated context that is present in the human centipede-esque para-content React that is whatever the hell this is. In fact, I'd be willing to bet most of them never even watched the original Force video that they're reacting on, which doesn't mention this at all. The danger of living off of these kind of videos, quality or not, is that you simply grow to parrot the opinion of a ding-dong of the internet instead of forming your own. Avowed, the game in question could presumably go on to give any of them a profound experience in gaming that they would genuinely love and find meaning in, but they have grown so unable to distinguish valid criticism from lazy incoherence due to a lack of actual engagement with games as a medium and just kind of life in general, that they lack an openness and an intellectual agility required to actually enable having an experience in the first place. Experience in the degree in which it is experienced is heightened vitality. Instead of signifying being shut up with one's own private feelings and sensations, it signifies active active and alert commerce with the world. At its height, it signifies complete interpretation of self and the world of objects and events. A rigid predetermination of an end product, whether by artist or beholder, leads to the turning out of a mechanical or academic product. The processes by which the final object and perception are reached are not, in such cases, means that move forward the construction of a consummating experience. Why yes, Dewey did just predict pseudo-intellectual YouTube commentaries in their dogshit comment sections. Truly, a man ahead of his time. I love para-content that engages in supplemental action to the core experience. I have found it to be incredibly enriching to enabling my own growth as a person, to interpret media, and just kind of learn to see deeper contexts within things that I may have missed before. However, when para-content is simply fueled by a desire to ape as many views as possible, regardless of what kind of sludge you're putting into the world, using those kinds of videos as a replacement for actual substantive experience literally only leads your brain to melt and pour out of your ears. Algorithms that prioritize profitable anger and content that has effectively zero nuance is poisoning the minds of people to believe that the only place an experience can live is in the past. So they give up. And it seems like a pretty shitty way to live your life. To disguise growth as a means of standing up to something that you don't even really fully understand. To simply adopt somebody else's way of thinking and then frame it as your own. I mean, if you're more concerned about looking for the right experience or path to those experiences instead of actually living life with an openness to engage in them wherever you might find them, you ain't ever gonna find any. Just because somebody has a big imaginary number next to their name doesn't mean you should listen to everything that they say. Except me, I'm objectively the best, which is why you should like and subscribe and hit the bell. Is there even a bell anymore? I don't actually know if there's a bell anymore. I just checked. I can't see a bell. I'm assuming it's gone. I don't know when that happened. Video games. Marvel Rivals is proof that humanity is incapable of self-governing. The random shopping carts abandoned in the middle of the grocery store parking lot were the first modern indicator of this, but the mountain of idiots insta-locking duelists is the last straw. It's actually quite cold in here, which is why I covered up my slutty body and made some yummy tea. But don't worry, fellas. The grippers are still out. Dewey may have predicted React content slop, but he didn't predict live service games and Subway Surfer, so he's a hack and a fraud. One thing that the D-Man continually emphasizes about having an experience is the deep importance on time and structure in arranging the practical, the intellectual, and the emotional elements of said experience in what the D-Man calls dynamic organization. I call the organization dynamic because it takes time to complete it, because it is a growth. There is inception, development, fulfillment. I remember beating Outer Wilds after staying up way too late on a weekday, watching the credits roll, just sitting in my chair, feeling this immense release of pressure within my body, not really understanding why there's tears in my eyes, but feeling like this video game that has quite possibly the worst flight controls I've ever experienced had touched my soul and transformed me as a human being. As I played the game, each successive action and element brilliantly built upon each other. The practical controls and mechanics of the game were all something I learned to utilize successively and in tandem. The intellectual organization of the lore and the structure of which you are supposed to engage with the game was seamlessly integrated with those previously mentioned controls and mechanics, and the emotional beats are all seamlessly interwoven into the previous two categories, and thus come to a final, definitive, punctuated end that makes for an experience like I have literally never experienced since. In such experiences, every successive part flows freely, without seam and without unfilled blanks into what ensues. At the same time, there is no sacrifice of the self-identity of the parts. A river distinct from a pond flows. In an experience, flow is from something into something. As one part leads into another, and as one part carries on what went before, each gains distinctness in itself. The enduring whole is diversified by successive phases that are emphases of its varied colors. Within each individual experience, the balance of those three might shift. However, there is a constant synchronous compounding into a great release that is always present. I am now adding my own supplemental edition to Dewey's theory, and I am calling this ever important conclusion the experiential nut. Eat your heart out, D-man. Think of every experience you've ever had in your life, and that beginning and middle leading to the experiential nut is present in every single one of them. And then enter live service. As I mentioned in the beginning, Dewey skillfully articulated the problems with viewing art as a product from an onlooker sense. The collectors, the value hoarders, the cultural custodians who care about more the perceived representation than the art itself. But what about when the art itself is designed as a product instead of being interpreted that way? Its construction, and thus the way people interact with it, is completely manufactured in such a way that make that ever important temporal structure impossible to achieve. And with no end, where is that ever important conclusion? Where is the experiential nut? The compounding flow of practical, intellectual, and emotional are torn apart from its artificial body, and instead systems to reward engaging with it out of obligation or manipulation are shoved into its writhing body. And what should be a level of intentionally designed mortality is removed. And instead, it's forced to live on with some kind of everlasting life that it was never meant to have. And in that newfangled Frankenstein's body of a monster that game is, it has no balls, and therefore no nut is possible. Whenever I stop playing a live service game, or even a roguelike, short or long term, it never feels like I've reached a satisfying conclusion. It's almost always that I'm done with this game's bullshit, or that I just want to play something else because I'm bored after 100 hours. For whatever momentary sparks of engagement I might have, there's never true, constant unity throughout my time, and I always have to kind of compensate, hyper-focusing on one aspect of what I'm doing or participating in a way that turns off a part of my brain to keep me sane or to accomplish these stupid arbitrary goals that I don't even really want to do. My brain just feels compelled to do. I stop because I'm bored, I'm frustrated, or tired of losing to the sunk cost fallacy. Back me up, D-man. The enemies of the aesthetic are neither the practical nor the intellectual. They are the humdrum, the slackness of loose ends, submission to convention in practice and intellectual procedure, rigid abstinence, coerced submission, tightness on one side, and dissipation, incoherence, and aimless indulgence on the other, are deviations in opposite directions from the unity of an experience. Even in particularly bright spots, like a very strong round of Marvel Rivals where I decimate my opponents, or playing through a raid as it's intended, like the first time I went through The Last Wish. That is only one synchronous part of a larger discordant whole. And no matter how good those small parts are, they will not make up for a lack of unity in the larger experience. Destiny 2 players, you people are literally abused housewives, and it seems like you're finally getting the message after all these years. When the interest of the game is not to give you a satisfying, condensed experience, but to make you play longer, people are going to realize this. Destiny 2 is basically the perfect example of what I was talking about when I was saying you need to have this natural exchange of energies between the art object and the viewer. A meeting and matching of perceptions, or else you will hate yourself and what you're doing. The art is selected, simplified, clarified, abridged, and condensed according to his interest. The beholder must go through these operations according to his point of view and interest. In both, an act of abstraction, that is the extraction of what is significant, takes place. They're gonna realize, hey, I don't see the value in making these boring, repetitive experiences the core of the game. I don't see the value in making these random ass missions so goddamn annoying to complete. I don't see the vision in making it so arduous to have my little numbers go up. In making crafting gear so needlessly complicated and unintuitive. I swear to fucking God, if I keep slamming something and getting stun threshold on it, I'm going to lose my mind. And as people start realizing all of these things, they're gonna start battling with the devs because they think the devs' point of view is bullshit and stupid and greedy. Because in the context of these kinds of games, they really kind of are. Engaging with a product that is designed to never have an end and artificially keep you engaged is fundamentally different from engaging with a concise, beautiful, simplistic artistic experience like mouthwashing, for example. There are no compromises that need to be made. Nothing is meant to last forever. So many people's brains have been rotted by engaging with this artificial structure that promises experience but never fully delivers something satisfying. I want to be clear here in that I don't want to insinuate that there's no artistic value or positive entertainment to be found in this new capitalistically motivated genre of everlasting artificial engagement. I have fond memories of playing World of Warcraft in high school and conquering Ulduar for the first time with my guild. My friends and I these days regularly play various games as a means of enabling social gatherings because we are all scattered across the United States of America. But just as the modern age of the internet and content as a medium today is deeply disruptive to our engagement and perception of the world, ourselves, and most importantly, video games, these games and how they are structured are further altering our perceptions of reality and damaging our abilities to engage with organic elements of the world. Something Subway Surfers, Squishing Soap, Infinite Scroll, Survivor Crafting, Multiplayer, Last World, Battle Pass, Mobile, Fortnite. "2025 is the year we are bringing back victim blaming, baby. Deflection is out, personal responsibility is in, and just like Jimmy from mouthwashing, you need to take responsibility." Also, just pretend that this was in the shot for the last take for continuity or whatever. Yes, the fabric of society is being torn asunder. Corporations are infusing endless amounts of money to make you psychologically addicted to numbers and anime women, and there's an army of subhuman ghouls who are happy to peddle you brain damage as long as they can monetize it. But are you actually taking steps towards the growth you so desire, or do you just want to complain on the internet for magic points instead of realizing you have the autonomy to just hit the close button? In this tumultuous reality we live in, are there actually so little good games being made these days? Or have you just put in relatively zero effort into externally and internally creating a pipeline for yourself to access quality art? Are games actually more political now? Or has your engagement with the broader world remained near stagnant for years and years and thus deprived you of the cognitive faculties to view interconnected, layered context in media and society? Did that game actually not have a story, or did you just kind of give up trying to understand it? That which distinguishes an experience as aesthetic is conversion of resistance and tensions into a movement towards an inclusive and fulfilling close. Without resistance from surroundings would the self become aware of itself. It would have neither feeling nor interest, neither fear nor hope, neither disappointment nor elation. Mere opposition that completely thwarts creates irritation and rage. But resistance that calls out thought generates curiosity. But resistance that calls out thought generates curiosity, and solicitous but resistance that calls out thought generates curiosity and solicitous care, and when it is overcome and utilized, eventuates in elation. When I lambast people for not understanding Hellblade 2, or for spouting dribble on their dumb React channel, or having poor media literacy, I'm not calling them stupid, I'm calling them lazy. I know to many of you viewers, new and old, I appear as the pinnacle of insight and evaluation. However, I didn't become this glorious beacon of knowledge immediately, you know. There was confusion at points. There was friction with understanding what I was reading, what I was experiencing, what I was playing, but I didn't pull away. I leaned into it. I sought discussion. I replayed sections of games I did not understand. I reread sections of books that I was having trouble comprehending, and I sought out meaningful interpretations and supplemental para-content to aid in my understanding. I did this until I saw the connections. I saw the intermingling of themes and ideas with story and gameplay until everything coalesced into something more beautiful than would have been possible if I had simply understood everything immediately from the beginning. The reason why this book is so important to me is because the first time I read it almost a decade ago now, I had no fucking idea what D. Grayman was saying. But there was something there that really pulled at me. And I didn't want to let that go. I wanted to understand what the fuck was going on. And the effort and time and years that I put into rereading this and bringing in other forms of aesthetic philosophy that I liked and enjoyed into helping me interpret what the fuck was going on made this such an unfathomably rewarding experience that now I can pass on and utilize the knowledge in here to experience everything else. It's the same thing with Hellblade, it's the same thing with mouthwashing, it's the same thing with fucking every aspect of my life. It's all interconnected, and that resistance and force leading towards growth and action is what gives experience meaning. If you just wanted to be spoon-fed everything like a little baby, you're not gonna get anywhere. The important part isn't even that I succeeded. The important part is that I even tried. This could have still gone completely over my head. But because I put in the effort and sought other things that I did understand, I developed further enrichment and appreciation for this area of study that has forever impacted my life and how I view it. That's my big problem of this whole framing with modern games bat, is that it's such an uninspiring, uninteresting way to live your life. To give up at the slightest bit of friction because it's what? Something new? Wow, scary. To be so easily coerced by the opinions of people who are probably less experienced than you are, to give up at the slightest bit of resistance purely because of how something should be, is so boring. It's so boring. Only wanting Marvel movie black and white baby mode ass explanations of stories and themes and concepts in everything really just locks you out of a deeper level of understanding the complexities of the world around us and how it can be interpreted into more meaningful, artistic, imaginative, and nuanced ways. Some people have such parasitic relationships with these content creators, as well as playing empty games, that they simply have no frame of reference to check themselves and figure out, hey, maybe I'm actually a fucking loser. And every single person has the power to change this. The brain is a muscle. The brain is a muscle, and muscle must be used to be strong. If your brain is always engaging in the same low effort, monotonous content that it's usually getting, how on earth do you expect it to grow? You want a big brain, don't you? You don't want the kids on the playground to keep calling you small brain Jimmy, because I know you come home crying whenever that happens, but what are you doing about it? I'm trying to raise you better than this. Go home, uninstall Destiny 2, and go play the Talos Principle. If you've made it this far, you've probably realized that A, I am very handsome, and B, you ain't gonna have no experiences if you don't live your life in a way that's conducive to getting them. In an experience, things and events belonging to the world, physical and social, are transformed through the human context they enter, while a live creature is changed and developed through its intercourse with things previously external to it. That's Dewey using some fancy words to tell you to turn off your slop, to play more video games, and to go outside and experience human things like emotion, failure, resistance, to deepen your appreciation for the world and the things the people of the world can make. This dude left a post on the mouth-washing Steam forums and is getting blasted for saying it's a boring walking simulator with no puzzles, no horror. He made sure to specify that he wasn't scared, of course. And the only thing that made him smile were the Pony Express posters. He has a lot of reviews that also just seem to lambaste games for not being enough game in the purely mechanical, practical sense. Like, brother, you're playing games called Untitled Goose Game and Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. If you cannot open your heart as a part of the artistic experiences, then you are trying to walk on one leg. Mouthwashing is one of the best games I played in all of 2024 because it uses the horrors of real life told in a sci-fi Silent Hill-ass setting in an emotional, airtight, linear fashion that make it absolutely beautiful. The elements that make up human and the emotion that they evoke are intrinsic to generating experiences, because if everything is all just objective analysis or whatever, there is absolutely no precipice for experience to take hold. We are given to thinking of emotions as things as simple and compact as are the words by which we name them. Joy, sorrow, hope, fear, anger, curiosity are treated if each in itself were a sort of entity that enters full made upon the scene, an entity that may last a long time or a short time, but whose duration, whose growth and career is irrelevant to its nature. Persons are sometimes said to fall in love at first sight, but what they fall into is not a thing of that instance. What would love be if it were compressed into a moment in which there is no room for cherishing and for solicitude? The intimate nature of emotion is manifested in the experience of one watching a play on the stage or reading a novel. It attends to the development of the plot, and the plot requires a stage, a space wherein to develop and time in which to unfold. Experience is emotional, but there are no separate things called emotions within it. My favorite gaming related video of this year was some video of a dude in the woods talking about his experience with Dark Souls in relation to the highs and lows of pursuing challenge in his own life. It was filled with emotion, intellectual analysis, and practical advice in a seamless blending of somebody fully experiencing their own life, engaging with a piece of art and reflecting it back into a piece of art that they created.
But Dark Souls made me realise something quite funny, and that's that I think I was going hollow. Like, generally I'd lost all motivation or purpose in what I was doing with my life, and I was starting to become like the crestfallen warrior, and I never want to be the crestfallen warrior. Never be that guy. Do you know how many fucking crestfallen warriors I've met in real life? Every single older person in a retail job. I think I've always had like a weird issue with confidence, and I've never felt confident or good enough at any one thing to actually go out and do it. And I don't want to be hyperbolic and say that beating Dark Souls changed my life and made me more confident. But I think Dark Souls was like a spark, a first flame, if you will, for me to go out of my comfort zone and try things that I hadn't done before. Small things, you know, like now I go to the gym. I know you wouldn't be able to tell, but I do that. I go climbing now. I can climb that I would have never climbed. I could climb this tree if you want me to. Watch this.
Beautiful. This is what you people need to be watching, not this. You don't need another React video. You don't need another injection of right-wing adjacent slop. You do not need to grind out those pointless fucking numbers. You do not need that anime girl. I dare you. I double dog donut dinosaur dare you to go 1 week without social media, without live service games, and see what happens. Engage with something challenging, something uncomfortable, something exciting, something new. Just one little week without somebody else's shitty opinion blasting in your ear. Except mine, obviously. Join a climbing gym. Pick up that comic you've been meaning to try. Check your local library for a book you might be interested in. Play that weird art house game. Make a recipe for a tasty treat you've always wanted to try. Go for a nice walk in your local park. Give your number to that cute alt barista at your local coffee shop. Please do something that you have the potential to fail at, to push through and give that shriveled raisin in your noodle some much needed exercise. To properly engage in art, to properly have an experience, you must engage with the world as it is. The world isn't stagnant, but if you are, everything else is gonna seem that way. Oh yeah, I don't think I ever showed this off, but look at my cute little fucking mushroom house mug that I painted. Look at that shit. I got the fucking flowers and the vines on the side. Got some nice texturing there. God damn, look at that shit. That's fucking beautiful, brother. It's a panty dropper if I've ever seen it. God damn. Go to your local ceramic shop. Paint a cute little mug. I promise, it'll make you feel infinitely better than any other piece of content on this garbage fucking website will. Except mine, subscribe.